Hello there dudes, this is the first of 5 mini tutorials on JavaScript. It's a jumpstart series. It's intended for beginners. I'm assuming that you've got some CSS and HTML experience already. So let's get started by creating a new document. I'm in Visual Studio Code. I'll just do the exclamation mark trick and I've already got my document up and running. What I want to show you is something that really puzzled me at the beginning, and it's the nature of how JavaScript interacts with the web page. So I'm used to programming languages such as C++ and Python, but when I started to learn JavaScript, I found out that there were these functions that edit the HTML and CSS that we've already written as our web page. And I just found it strange that there was a language that interacted with a web page which was fundamentally of a different format. And so I just want to show you some examples of why I found that confusing or just unusual, just something that I hadn't done before. I'll get started now by showing you a few examples on screen and then we'll take it from there. So I'll just change the title so we know what we're looking at. And the first thing we're going to do is create some basic elements. Let's just type those into the body. Learning JavaScript. And now the paragraph elements. So let's put a few of those in. So we'll start by creating 3 paragraph lines. I'm just going to copy and paste this one just to make it a bit quicker. So just paste that 3 times. Then we just need to change the line numbers. I've got Live Server open using VS Code. You don't need to use Live Server. You can just open up the web page in a browser, and you can also open the inspect tools in a browser. So I'll just show you how to do that. If you right click on the file within your folder where you've created it on your computer, it'll open up the document. As you can see, there's nothing there yet. To get this window open, we just go to inspect and it opens up this window, and we can check for errors and things in the console window. And if we go back to the Elements tab, we can see what's in the body, which is nothing at the moment. So let's get back to this. Now if we click save, that should obviously get the 3 paragraphs up on screen. Right, so I hadn't copied in the live URL from the browser when I opened up the live server, so I've just copy and pasted that and now it's updated. So we've got line 1, line 2, line 3, and we've got the heading. Now we want to make that look a little bit prettier, so let's add some styling in the head of the document. Put the header in the center of the screen. And now let's set the font size to 40 pixels. And let's give it a color. Just go for blue, and let's just save that, and it should automatically refresh once I want to save it. There we go. And now we need to style the paragraphs, so let's do that. 30 pixels, and let's give that a color as well, and let's choose brown, but then let's change it to, so there we go. We've got the basis for me being able to now show you what I was talking about. So this is where I found it to start to get strange when I started to learn JavaScript. So we need to create a script within the body. Let's do that now. And what I'm going to do now is show you the very first line of JavaScript which interacts with the HTML. And so this is an interaction between HTML and JavaScript, and the JavaScript will change the content of the HTML, and we'll see something change on the screen. So let's do that now, and then I'll explain what the line is doing. Document get element by ID, and access the inner HTML property, and let's set that to add some additional text onto the end of the heading. So the header 1 has got an ID.js variables. We're accessing that in JavaScript and we're going to add some extra text onto the end of the heading. And I'm now going to save that. And that was what I found strange when I first started to learn JavaScript. I'm used to programming languages which are typically doing things like creating loops or putting graphics on screen or doing calculations and things. So working with HTML was quite different when I first started to get into it. And now I'm using a function which is within a proper programming language, JavaScript, which is interacting with HTML, and just that very basic process I found odd when I first come across it. So that's what we've just done. I'll quickly undo that and do it again, but look at the window on the right just here. You can see where it says experimenting with the DOM has been added within the console window. So if I just comment that line actually and click save, you'll see that it's disappeared, it's not there anymore. We're looking at the brain of the DOM, what does DOM stand for? Document Object Model. And if I re-enable this line and click save again, you'll see that it's reappeared. So this is JavaScript modifying the DOM, which is a representation of the structure of the HTML in the brain of the browser. So let me explain what this line does. Document is an interface into the HTML document. So it's a document object which contains the structure, gives access to the structure of the HTML page. GetElementID is a function. So by accessing the document object, then calling the getElementID function, which returns an object giving us control over the HTML element, and then accessing that element's property, the inner HTML property, and then we set the value of that. In this case, it's just the text that we're adding on to the text that's already part of the header. And so that single line, quite simply I suppose, modifies, updates the text of the header tag. Let's have a look at some more examples. We can do the same thing with class name, so it's a little bit different, but let me just show you how we do that. You can see the different options appearing in the drop-down box there. So we can use any of these different methods to return an HTML element as an object to then give us control over it within JavaScript. We're going to choose the get elements by class name option, and we can see that we've given each of the 3 paragraphs a class name of my text. So let's type that in. But because there's more than one, it returns effectively an array of all of the objects with that same class name. So we need to specify the position of the one that we want to modify. Let's modify the first paragraph. So that is at position 0 because computers start counting from 0, not 1. We need to remember that. And let's just do the same thing again. Let's access the inner HTML property and set the value. And let's save that. That didn't work. What have I done wrong? That's wrong. Get elements by class name. Let's try it now. There we go. So let me show you another example where we can actually also change the styling and different things. So it's not just the inner HTML, there's all sorts of properties that we can change. At this point, actually, I'm just going to show you what it looks like in the other window. Let me just refresh that. So this is happening on my other monitor and updating on my other monitor at the same time as I'm working within VS Code. I'll maximize this window. And now you can see that I've also got the inspect the DevTools open in the other window. So I've got an exact copy going on. If you're not using VS Code, like I said, you can just do it within the other window. Obviously nice if you've got 2 monitors. So I'll drag that out of the way. Just put a line break between these so we can see what we're doing. So we'll modify the next paragraph. So we'll do the same thing again, only this time we'll select index position 1. So that'll be the second paragraph. And let's change the text decoration to underline. We can type in the style property and then text decoration, and we need to set that to whatever we want. So let's set it to underline. Save that. Work this time. So that's line 2 that we've made underlined. We don't have to set a specific style property. We can set the styling of all the different properties like we normally do within CSS. Like we normally do in line with CSS. I'll just show you how we do that. And we'll change the third paragraph, which is at position number 2. And now, when we type style, rather than accessing the specific property or a specific property, we can simply set the styling like we do with inline CSS, like this. So we can set the colour to green, and let's just also change the font size to 65 pixels. And let's save that. There we go. Let's now do something else. We can create a new element as well. That's one of several other things that we can do, or amongst many other things we can do. So again, we're accessing the DOM by going into the document object. We're then going into the body of the document by using dot notation, so document.body. And then within the body we want to append another element, so we use the append child function. So let's select that, and then we need to, within the brackets of the append child function, we need to pass as an argument the document access point again, and then the create element function and the element that we want to pass, and the inner HTML property set to some text. We can select that from the list because it's come up, and let's create another paragraph.
I am a new paragraph element.
Let's see if this works. Keep your eye on the DevTools over there on the right. I'm just going to click save now. There we go. So I'm a new paragraph element has appeared underneath line 3, and we can also see it in the brain of the DOM over there on the right. Those various different function calls were the kinds of things that I found strange when I first started to learn JavaScript. Obviously they're absolutely essential because the interaction with JavaScript and HTML and CSS, it's all about the DOM, and so we're effectively looking at the DOM being modified and updated when we're looking in the DevTools window over here on the right. The next tutorial, there's another 4. The next one is going to be about JavaScript variables, and then we're going to move on to conditional logic, that's my favourite part, conditional logic, and then we're going to move on to functions. We're going to finish off with JavaScript maths. We're going to be looking at some of the basic things we can do with maths, and then we're also going to create a mini little program which is like a maths quiz where it'll come up with a calculation that it asks the user to give the answer to, and then they can click on the submit button, put the answer through, see if they've got it right or not. So that will be good fun, and that will be the last one of this 5-part mini series. Don't forget to subscribe. The next one will already be out because I'm not going to release them until all 5 are done, so you can go and click on any of those links now down in the description, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.